Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. It's been a little bit since I've covered some Crowfall stuff. It's kind of been a content drought going on. I know they're kind of working to release campaign worlds. They're working to release some updates. So I figured I'd cover up an article that they released a few days back. I finally got a chance to get around to covering it. With holidays just passed and just a shortened work week for me, I had no extra time. So now that we finally have time, we're going to take a look at the character creation overhaul that Crowfall announced on June 29th. This is, a little bit over a week ago. But we'll take a look at what they have, what they had, and what they have. So, I won't read it word for word, but I'll try to paraphrase and summarize this as best as I can here. And we'll try to keep it a little bit shorter than usual. But basically what they're saying is, currently what they do is if you log into the game, you're a spirit crow and you fly to one of the smaller, in the temple, there are archetype statues that you fly to choose essentially your archetype, your class. And once you interact with that little statue, you can essentially just type in a name, and that's really the only choices that you had currently enabled. So with the new overhaul announcement, one of the things that they announced was how race and class changes will work. And so basically the way it works now is kind of what you're probably pretty familiar with seeing, selecting a race and then having an array of classes available to you based on whichever race you select. So if you take a look at the image here, you can see that they have humans selected, and then the 3 available class for human right now is Knight, Templar, Ranger, and then as you can see, Assassins coming soon, Frostweavers coming soon, and Clerics coming soon for humans. Pretty straightforward. So what this basically says is the temple interaction is going to be different. Instead of approaching the archetype statues, they're going to be approaching the hero statue, which is the gigantic statue in the middle of the temple, and this is where you would initiate character creation. But it says, character creation process will be divided into 3 major steps: race and class selection, which is the screen you see here; appearance and advantages. Well, I'm sorry, appearance is the second one, and advantages and disadvantages is the third one. So let's progress down. So you can see character creation, race, and class selection is this one. And they talk about that. So they say, obviously, this is pretty familiar traditionally. It will dynamically update, making it very clear what your choices are. This is pretty straightforward. I know that this is a very easy solution for them to implement. So, yeah, they're going with a more traditional menu progression. And they briefly describe, the tooltip for these is based on what they currently have established for the discipline system that they placed in. So you can kind of see the formatting is very similar. They have some type of graphic icon, name, who can equip it, the stats. You get your racial passives or your disciplines, and then the abilities that you would get based on your selection, right? So you could hover over and you could see which one would work for it, which is pretty cool. You can kind of compare options, which is pretty cool. They will provide default vessels or bodies. Some point in the future, you'll be able to use custom vessels obtained through necromancy or player trading that carry unique stats and attributes. So the second screen we're going to look at is customize appearance, which is the second step out of the 3-step process. Here you can see you can select gender, hairstyle, face style, hair color, eye color, skin tone. So pretty straightforward. They have a kind of a limited selection if you've played other MMOs. Other MMOs have probably more robust options, or just a more robust character creator, just based on how many options you have. I don't know, like, to me personally, that's not the biggest deal. However, it is kind of nice to make your character different than other people playing, and I know that gear will play a role in it, but it would be nice to have a few more options. I feel like this is kind of limited, and I've played games with like limited character customization options in here. This is a little limited, I feel, but then again, it is a very early stage of development, so they could very well, you know, implement more. I guess we'll just have to see. Color palettes are fine. I think that's great. You know, having various hair color options in here is really cool. Eye color is kind of arbitrary to me. It's not something you really focus on. Skin tone, it's nice that they have a pretty good range of skin tones in here, which will be really, really cool. So here, once you select a custom appearance, I'll read what they kind of have described here. Once the race to class is decided, the next step is setting cosmetic preferences. These options will vary depending on race and class that were chosen. Some combinations offer the ability to change gender, hairstyle, face, and head shapes, and a variety of custom colors for each. Since these options are purely cosmetic, they will be one of the later aspects of character customization to surface during testing. Okay, so after customizing appearance, you have the advantages and disadvantages. So this is a point system, right? You have a total point system, and you have a total amount of advantages / disadvantages that you can assign. And, you know, you have a starting pool of, let's just say 30. And you can choose, in this example, they have a starting pool of 30. I know that because if you add dim-witted for a +10 maximum to your pool, you have 40. So 40 minus 10 equals 30, right? And you can clearly see here they have, this is also totaling 35. Oh, because they have 5 points remaining. Yep. So cool. So you can clearly see your spending points for advantages, and you're selecting disadvantages to gain points back. So you can kind of start min-maxing, so to say, like how you want your character to play. But these traits are permanent, so to the character. So you want to be kind of choosy with what you're putting together, based on what you think you want to do with it. So that'll be very interesting once they have that system in place. Color choice is pretty interesting. I do like the setup. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. I like their selection menu in here and how they kind of have it nested. That's pretty cool. That's cool. So once the look is settled, it's time to alter the character's stats and attributes to advantages, disadvantages. Every race and class combination will yield a pool of creation points that can be spent on advantages to provide stat benefits in various categories. Alternatively, you can opt to apply disadvantages that will decrease your stat value and grant you bonus creation points. This is what we were talking about. So we are still designing the specifics of this portion of character creation, but the goal is basically unchanged since we announced the system. We want to give players a chance to further match the character to the playstyle. Now that we've seen the system, we can offer benefits like new powers, passes, and additional slots for them. The vast degree of options are going to make this one of the deepest MMO customization systems yet. The team is making great progress adapting the old archetypes to use racial runestones and translating the animations and powers over from one body to the others. This will be a phased rollout. The new screens will come online first with limited options, and then we'll start to fill out the tree of combinations over time. Stay tuned over the coming months to implement these features for your enjoyment and constructive criticism. So cool, that's pretty much the gist of it. I'm going to go over what I think. I'll kind of give my opinion now that we kind of went over objectively what they plan to do. So the very first screen, selecting the race and classes, I think that's just fine. On one end, I think it is kind of basic. It is, they're doing what's kind of tried and true, which I get. So the pros and cons of that is, obviously, it's going to take less time to develop something that has been tried and tested. And you know that it works, and it's a very basic and easy to understand menu, in my opinion. So it leaves a lot less room for error, and the minimal look I kind of like. I kind of like having these various kind of like minimized portraits or selections for the races. That's cool. I like that the classes have their own icons too. That's really cool. And the tooltip hovering over it helps a lot. Excuse me. The downside is that it is very basic. And I know that it's pre-alpha, so it's kind of hard. I think it's still considered pre-alpha, but it's still really early on, and it's kind of hard to judge right now to see how it works, to see how they plan on using animation sounds and stuff in the menu. You know, what kind of variation we're gonna get. Nothing fancy, so I don't know. It might be too simplified or too basic for some people's taste, but for me, I think it's all right. I think it's fine. Like I said, the tooltip is really helpful. This is what, if you're interested in stats and min-maxing, this is what you're going to be about. So if you're the type of person that spends an absorbent amount of time creating and customizing your characters, choosing your racing class is going to be a pretty big deal, and kind of knowing the advantages and disadvantages of the powers and passives that you get is going to be a pretty big deal. So tooltip, very helpful in my opinion. Nothing much more to say about that. I mean, obviously it's hard to say, like, you know, what the final layout and have constructive criticism on that is, because it's just too early. But as far as presenting a concept of this and how they're presenting information, I think that's fine. Yeah, I talked a brief about the appearance customization. You know, pro might be that, you know, there's very room for error, and it's pretty straightforward, to the point. Color options are pretty good. On the flip side, I think that having maybe a few more options for hair and a few more options for face could add to the amount of variations and characters you can have. But I think that's probably my only constructive criticism for this. I don't see a way to zoom in. You know, I think for this, if they are choosing what has to do with the face, you know, it would be nice if they're selecting gender, they could use the zoom a little bit more. So a hairstyle, you could probably zoom in. And I don't know if they plan on using a scroll for zoom and then like a click and drag to rotate, as a lot of MMOs traditionally do, but who knows? Or they could just have a camera appointed to the face when you're selecting, and then don't really allow, I don't know if they're gonna allow rotation or whatever, but we'll see. That's just something I'm noticing. Now, my favorite part of the character creation overhaul is the advantages and disadvantages. I think that's a cool concept, and I think, you know, you see it in more traditional like paper RPG games, things like that. So you know that this is adapted from something like that, which I think is a very cool concept. So the example they use is you could have very high accuracy, but you could be dim-witted, so you have lower intelligence. Yeah, you could be an agile character that's dim-witted, just for the extra bonus, you know, the extra layer of customization. But I believe they cap you. Yeah, they cap you off, so that's kind of cool. It'll be interesting to see what people select and their builds. But overall, I think you know, this is an exciting addition. I'll welcome change if you've been playing it for a while. I'm just really hungry for new content, so I'm hoping they release this soon and get it implemented, because talking about it is kind of cheap, I feel. I would rather get a chance to experience it firsthand and show you guys live what that's like in the menu, and kind of get to see how it feels, and, you know, etc, etc. And we'll actually get to play around with it a little bit more. And I don't know how close to the final product this is, if this is just a skeleton, wireframe, or whatever else needs to be added. It's very hard to tell at this point. I am assuming that everything that we're currently seeing is going to eventually change or be modified somehow for the final. So I don't know. Maybe that's a poor blanket assumption, but I think that for something like this seems like they're going to be adding on and working. As they, like they said, slow roll this out or phase this out slowly. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys are excited for more content. I know we have. I know it's been a little bit dry, and a lot of our friends are saying how, you know, it's been dry and it's kind of a momentum killer, and that's unfortunate. But hopefully we can still, you know, Crowfall is still in some of my top interests, but like, I agree with the sentiment. You know, I think we're all ready for more updates, and I know that the developers are working on it and trying to get something out. So that's great. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for the support. And I hope you guys tune in again. I'm going to try to cover more content tomorrow. I know there's a few more articles or announcements that I can cover tomorrow. And we'll talk about more Crowfall stuff tomorrow, hopefully, right? So that's the goal. Anyways, thank you guys for swinging by, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace out.